Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
For 9/2025 at 5:34 p.m. First item of business is the approval of minutes. I'll need a motion on the draft minutes of the August 26, 2025 Finance Committee meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Alder Latase. Comments or questions, changes? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. We have nobody in chambers. Do we have anyone registered online? Thank you very much. We have no one online either, so we can move on to item 4, Finance Director Report. Misty?
Thank you. So first, there were a handful of questions at the last meeting that I didn't have answers to at my fingertips, so I'd like to report back now. So one was on the July Treasurer's Report. There's an ask about why the cash in the general fund was so much higher in July than in June. Reason for that is we are a direct recipient of the school tax levy credit and the first dollar credit. So we received both of those wires from the state on July 28th for almost $9 million. We then on August 15th wire that to the county. So we're basically just a pass through. It's extra hoops that we jump through, but the interest that we earn on that $9 million in those couple of weeks is well worth the extra hoops that we jump through. So that's what that was. There's also a question about the schedule for the payments of the shared revenue. So I was correct. So the shared revenue, the utility aid, and the supplemental aid, 15% of that is paid in July, and 85% of that is paid in November. And then the expenditure restraint payment, that is 100% included in the November payment. Then you asked about the meal reimbursement that was in the check. So there was a $1,117 meal reimbursement for a police officer. That was the officer that was assigned as the new K-9 handler. He was out in Indiana from June 8th to June 27th doing the training with the K-9. And so the amount that we reimburse for meals is based on the federal level from the GSA, and it's based on the rates in Indiana. So that's why that was so high. And then you asked about, on the IT item, if the 175 terabytes, right, that's what TB is, terabytes, thank you, was enough for the next 5 years. Our current true usage is 156 terabytes. This amount will not meet our needs for the contracted 5 years. The main purpose of this change is to move us from a pay-as-you-go unlimited capacity plan to a set limit plan to ensure our bills don't accidentally grow to an exponential amount. This is a stopgap that will hold our costs steady while giving us some more capacity and time to formulate long-term plans. And then also asked about the life of the hub IT equipment, because there was a contract for 3 years that was getting approved. The equipment that is there will not be replaced at the end of the contract. The firewalls have a life cycle of at least 5 years. The switches can run from 7 to 8 years, so they won't replace it just automatically at the end of that contract. Based on factors at the end of the contract, they will either renew it for a new multi-year contract or go year to year until they replace the equipment. So those were all the questions that I had noted. Other than that, included in the packet, there was the annual continuing disclosure filing. So this is a report we have to complete and file with the MSRB something rulemaking board on Emma that basically is notifying all the people that could potentially lend us money through our debt issuance, kind of what our status is. So this is an annual report that we completed. It's required continuing disclosure. No issues there. And then we also completed our examination report for our ARPA funds for 2024. Again, no issues as expected. And then that report has been filed with the Treasury. Other than that, crunch time for budget. So the mayor's proposed 2026 budget comes out next week, Friday. So be on the lookout for that. And then we have our special Finance Committee meetings on September 30th and October 1st. Hopefully you're able to join to learn about what's all included in the requests. That is it.
Thank you, Misty. I will sadly be gone for those meetings. So Bill, you'll be chairing those. Yeah. Good luck. Ask good questions. And I'll remind them, what dates are those meetings?
September 30th and October 1st, Tuesday, Wednesday.
September 30 and October 1. I'll remind the council that they should add that to their calendars.
Awesome. Thank you.
Best meeting of the year for anyone watching. Those 2 meetings where we go over the budget are amazing. Any questions for Misty? Bill?
Yeah, for the annual continuing disclosure filing, I was just looking at the debt that we have, and it's, I guess, the period is 2015 to 2024. I'm assuming the big players there are fire stations, Fish Hatchery Road, and the police facility.
So a portion of the police facility, not all of it.
Right.
And then there's also like Lacey Road is in there. There's a couple other bigger road projects that are included, but I think you got the heavy hitters.
Okay. And then could you explain, when do we use corporate purpose bonds versus promissory notes?
Yeah. So there was a law change recently. Prior to the law change, which is what the bulk of this is, you could only borrow for 20 years if you did it as bonds. And bonds are very statute driven and has to be for very specific purposes. So if you wanted to do 20 years, you had to do bonds for those purposes. Anything else had to be notes and could only be 10 years or less. They changed that last year, I think it was. And so now notes can go out to 20 years. So that's why we started doing that. For all of our debt as notes instead. It's administratively, it's a lot easier. You don't have as many resolutions you have to pass. It's not as strict as far as how, what specific projects it has to be spent on and that type of thing. So doing more notes now.
All right, seeing no other questions, we can move on to item 5, review of bills. 5A, detailed review of all checks for $10,000 and above from August 16 to 31, 2025, totaling $1,136,602.75. Comments or questions? Bill?
Yeah, so we had a check to Jacobus Energy for like a total of, just under 3,000 gallons of fuel. Is that like what we use in a year or?
So it's more frequently than a year.
Okay.
Jacobus is how we fill up our fuel tank down at the maintenance facility.
Sure.
So whenever the fuel tank is at a point where it needs to be filled back up, that's when we'll call them in. So it's more frequently than a year, but it's not as frequently as, say, every month. So it varies.
I think it'd be interesting to track our liquid fuel usage as our fleet electrifies.
Yep, which we do. So there's a separate account number for all of the fuel, so we can see that trend.
All right, we can move on to 5B. Detailed review of all checks issued, checks 129-162 to 129-225 from August 16 to 31, 2025, totaling $1,205,047.17. Questions? Moving on to 5C, detailed review of all ACH payments for $10,000 and above for August 1 to 31, 2025, totaling $650,032.91. Comments or questions? Moving on to 5D, detailed review of all ACH payments from August 1 to 31, 2025, totaling $655,004.63. Comments or questions? All right, we can move on to our action items. Item 6A, I'll need a motion on Resolution R 12925, accepting assignment of vegetation management contracts.
I will move approval.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer, and I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director. Tim?
Thank you. The city had previously authorized contracts with Field and Stream Restorations LLC for vegetation management services at stormwater facilities. The work to be performed by Field and Stream Restorations LLC was authorized by resolutions R109-23, R-74-24, R-7525, and R-7624. The owner of Field and Stream Restorations has since retired and has transferred assets and contracts to the closely related company Field and Stream Ecological Incorporated. This resolution will accept the assignment of existing contracts to Field and Stream Ecological Incorporated. We're looking for council to approve the assignment of current contracts held by Field and Stream Restorations LLC to Field and Stream Ecological Incorporated. And then also looking for council to authorize payments be made to Field and Stream Ecological Incorporated for the work performed under the existing contracts.
Thanks, Tim. Questions? Sounds pretty straightforward. We can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 12925, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to 6B, I'll need a motion on Resolution R 13025, Acceptance of Organics Management Grant Award and Approval of Contract with Dane County Waste and Renewables.
I move to approve.
Motion approved by Alder Lettisay. Tim, are you going to take this or who's going to? Tim, great.
Yes, I can take this one. The city was awarded $1,100 from Dane County Waste and Renewables through their Organics Management Grant Program. The awarded dollars are to be used to partially fund a contract with Dane County Waste and Renewables to provide food scrap collection kiosks and weekly collection services in Fitchburg for 52 weeks. Dane County Waste and Renewables will provide these services for a fee of $6,968. Fitchburg Common Council approval is needed to accept the grant award and to enter into a contract with Dane County Waste and Renewables. And then with this resolution, there's also a budget amendment is required to accept and apply the awarded funds to the expense and to reallocate $1,668 of funds previously approved for the Fitchburg Star advertising. And then the remaining contract costs will be paid for with funds allocated for the outreach and education account within the Refuge and Recycling Fund.
Thanks, Tim. Questions? I will just say, I think this is a good use of money. I do think we probably need to reopen the conversation about the Fitchburg Star and have that conversation because that's not originally what the intent of the money is, but I understand why we need to move things around. So I will accept it. Seeing no other questions, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 13025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 6C, I'll need a motion on Resolution R 13925, approving a contract between City of Fitchburg and Sustain Dane for Phase 2, Project 3 of the Efficiency Navigator Program for window replacement.
I will move approval.
Motion approved by Alder Jetzer, and I'm going to turn it over to Joyce.
Hi, everyone. This approval is actually a new project. If you recall, we have been working with Sustain Dane on the energy efficient upgrades for our older multifamily rental units, which were identified in the housing plan and have been reinforced by both the Housing Advisory Committee and CEDA. This is not a typical item that Sustain Dane does as part of their program, their energy efficiency program. However, we asked that when they went out and did the assessments that they also evaluate the windows. So this project is to replace 162 windows of the highest priority in, I believe, 8 buildings, and it's 3 different contractors. So this aligns with our housing objectives and also with the funding that was set aside through the TIDS. So I'm hoping that you'll join me in approving it.
Thank you. Questions? Bill?
So if this goes well, is that something that Sustained Ain and Elevate Energy are going to do in all the Efficiency Navigator projects moving forward?
I guess I'm not going to say yes or no. Leslie or Claire, would you like to respond to that?
And I guess grand scheme of things, how much of a gain do we get from windows versus the other improvements that are typically made, insulation, replacing furnaces with heat pumps, that sort of thing?
I think those
we
questions are
have
both for you, Claire.
Yeah, both of us can answer them. So we actually began including windows at the start of this year in some funding we're also doing with Madison, which is some federal funding. So we have also been looking much more closely at windows overall and the analysis of windows. So thank you to Fitchburg for bringing that forward and now getting into a place where windows are being considered. For the buildings in Fitchburg, when we look at the energy efficiency, the highest savings for windows is a 14% savings, and the lowest looks to be in about the 5% level. So whenever we do projects, we always think about doing weatherization first, right? Want to seal up the building, make sure that we are using our heating and cooling most efficient. That can be anywhere from 10% savings in a building up to 25 or 30, depending on the condition of the building. So, and then the same thing with replacing HVAC, right? Depends on the age of the equipment and whatnot. So comparable, I'd say. Oftentimes we don't see windows with the highest savings levels, so we've traditionally had started with weatherization, but there are these buildings, like the Smithfield buildings, where the percentage is fairly significant. Leslie, did you want to add anything?
Sure, I can just say that, windows vary building to building. And so the energy savings that can be realized is variable depending on the existing conditions of the windows, the quality of how the windows were installed, as well as just the number and size of the windows too. And, one of the things why programs don't typically address windows is the cost. So when there's money available to do windows, it's kind of a special thing because windows are just quite expensive items compared to some of the other measures that we would typically consider energy efficiency measures.
Mega.
So this is I'm here for kind of the second half of this program, just on council. I'm supportive of this. I just want to make sure I understand. So was the original program, like when we requested the original money, was that supposed to be for all three of these? Like it was supposed to be for the furnaces, the refrigerators, and the windows? Or it was just, so like when the 310,000 request was brought forward, what was that include?
So that was for the actual energy efficiency program. So that was for the weatherization. There were several buildings that were completed already.
Okay.
So the 310 was for just that portion. Then we asked them, when you're out doing your assessment, just as we did with the windows, and we also asked them to look at fire safety as well, because Mike and I really feel strongly that should be something that we look at as well, that our older buildings that are considered NOAA the people living there should not have lesser services and quality of amenities than a newer building. So we did have them also note if the units had fire safety, because we would like to see that included as well, because we believe it's the overall well-being of the building, not only from a energy efficiency, but also from health and safety.
And then, we authorized 233,000 in July. That was for like the furnaces and the refrigerators. So
Correct.
That was for the first portion
That
of
was
that
for
program.
that first phase of the things that were
Okay.
we have a very rough estimate from our contractors what the windows would be, because the city asked to have the windows looked at. But it wasn't included in the Efficiency Navigator's first project.
Okay.
But they did look at them through the assessment process, and then they came back to us, and they presented us with 3 options, because we did include additional dollars in the 2025 budget for the Efficiency Navigator program. So they came back to us with 3 different options based on realizing that the cost of these were quite expensive. So the first option was to just replace all the windows in the front of the buildings. And then the second option was to just replace the windows in one building that had the highest priority. And then the third option was to replace all the windows. So we sat down with Misty and we chatted with Chad as well and staff, and we determined that if we were going to do a project like this, we needed to do it right. And so we decided that we were going to get a price to have all of the windows replaced in the buildings that were the priority. So that's why I came forward with a new request.
And then, so this portion includes also a fee to elevate and sustain for $30,000. Is that just for this program? Do we pay them an additional fee during the first phase?
We paid them a separate fee for the project management for the first $310,000 of work that was done, and that's for, and this actual request does include a contingency as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R13925, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6D, I'll need a motion on Resolution R14625, amending the 2025 general fund budget for park repairs.
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Alder Lettice. And I'll throw it over to Adam, our Deputy City Administrator.
Thank you much. This item is for repairs at our Quarry Ridge Park and also at Dowley. So at Quarry Ridge, we have 2 restrooms that need repairs. One of the restrooms or toilets is currently down. The second one has a sensor that is bad, and we're looking at getting that replaced. The cost for that is $3,150. For Dowley, we currently have restroom partitions that have a solid surface stone type material. It's not a typical material that we have in other restrooms, which is typically more metal. It's cracking. We've fixed it before. It's now cracking again. So we're looking at replacing those partitions because once it cracks fully through, it breaks, we have to close the restrooms down. So we're looking at replacing those partitions with our typical metal ones that will hopefully hold up better with the elements. All total repairs are $7,614.95, and that's for the toilets, the restrooms, and then the partitions.
Questions? Bill?
Do those numbers seem high to just me or everybody? I mean,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just so you know, the flusher itself, which is the sensor ones that you see typically, just that alone is $700 or $800. That piece on both in the restroom there. There's 2 of them in there because you were fixing the one and then completely replacing a new toilet, a new sensor in the second one. So I mean that's sizable. Just on the sensors are expensive. I mean, not to be a bearer of bad news, but all our toilets are about the same age and we can't get parts for them anymore. So we're running to that now where you'll probably see additional issues in the future because our toilets are about that 20, 25 years old and they don't make the parts anymore. So that's why we're having to actually completely replace them and put them back in.
It's like heavy duty park toilets.
Yeah, it gets used.
Right. Yeah. So you go to Home Depot and you can get a new toilet for a couple $100, but that's yours. You take care of it, right? The general public, maybe not so much. Okay, so roughly half of that $3,150 is just because we've got 2 sensors to replace.
My understanding, because that came up at Parks Commission as well, and I spoke with our park supervisor, and he said the sensors are $700, give or take.
Yeah.
Other questions? Seeing none. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so we're paying for this partially with health insurance premiums. Is that coming out of like vacancy savings because Scott retired, or?
Yep, exactly. So our previous parks director retired, and we're not able to hire the new position probably until later in the year. So there's a couple of months worth of health insurance premiums that we can repurpose to this more or less one-time cost.
And does Scott know what his legacy to the city is?
New toilets.
Thanks, Scott. Any other questions? Good. All in favor of resolution R14625, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, I'll need a motion on resolution R14725, amending the 2025 TID closure excess increment fund budget, Swan Creek Tennis Courts.
I move approval.
Motion approved by Alder Jetzer. Adam?
Thank you. We're trying to shift some money as part of this for our Swan Creek tennis courts. That project was planned for 2026. We're learning from experience of we should be designing this, ahead of time and not trying to do all this work in 1 year. So not designing and building in 1 year, but trying to get the design work done this winter, bid in the winter, and then ultimately built in 26. So the intention of this is to shift those funds into the 2025 budget, but then also adding $50,000. That's just based upon our past recent experience with Chicory of where the costs are coming in. So this would take a 2/3 vote by the council because it is a budget amendment, but the intent here is to hopefully get this work, designed at the right time and then built at the right time. So trying to set those expectations, but that involves moving the money.
Micah?
Is the hope that if we design this now and bid it in the winter, that we would be more likely to get multiple bids bidding out in the winter rather than like kind of late in the summer?
Yes, that is the hope. I mean, the last one we did was not bid at the optimal time. So we're hoping in the winter, that's when they're looking for projects the following year. So the goal is hopefully they come in less expensive.
Another advantage to doing it this way is that they can start construction earlier in the season. And I don't know if you remember, there was quite a substantial line item in the Chicory Meadows bid for temporary striping just to get us from late fall through the spring when they could put down the permanent striping.
Yeah, just on that item, because of the cost, we took that out as staff. The temporary striping, because it was so high, but
sure,
it's good. But to your point, that project now will probably be done.
This would just not be an issue if we do this on the schedule that we're doing,
That's the goal. The paint has to be applied at a certain temperature, and that's where you run into the painting issue at the end of the year. Yeah.
Interesting. And so the total cost, so there's $250,000 budget, and we're adding an additional $50,000 on top of that, so we can anticipate at least $300,000 for the cost.
That's what we're thinking.
That's
I mean, Chicory came in at, I think, 320. We hope it doesn't come in that high.
We hope that's an upper limit just because of the
yes, yeah. So for this project,
inopportune timing,
it'll go back to Park Board, but I think initially staff is thinking possibly 1 tennis court, 2 pickleball courts. As part of that, we're also going to bid an alternate on the basketball court out there from a standpoint of it needs a new surface put on it. So we're at least going to see what the price is and to see if that's a possibility or not, because we might get some economies of scale as part of that, because that will need some work in the future, and it might make sense to try to squeeze that in now. But we hope that it comes in a lower. Obviously, there's a design cost to this as well, which comes in about $15,000 to $20,000. So then today you have like $275 actually for construction. That's after design work.
Great. So it'll actually, yeah, okay, makes sense. I like the approach that you're bringing to this. I think that's a good idea to try to get this in early, and hopefully we'll see it come in lower. Other questions?
What's the basketball surface? Asphalt with something special on top, or just paint on top, or what is that going to entail? Never mind.
I don't know. So all the pickleball courts now is what we're learning, and this is we're still new to this. So we change ordered into the McGaw courts, the fiberglass layer, and the intent of that is to kind of give it more flexibility. The issue we're running into is we get the crackle, we get these small little cracks, and with the pickleball being plastic, versus a tennis ball. Tennis ball can tolerate those cracks differently because of the ball's more, it moves. The pickleball being solid, when you hit a crack, it can go off to the side and go in a different direction. So we're now putting this fiberglass layer into McGaw. We're going to change order that into the hub. And then when we do Swan Creek, we're going to do fiberglass across the top, which is the hope that it buys us more time from a maintenance standpoint. What is the basketball court out there right now? I don't know. I suspect it's asphalt with some type of layer on top of it. But we're trying to take a hard look at our surfaces just because we're hoping as part of these we can spend a little more money up front, but then get more time on the back end that gives us more life at the end. So we're learning, and we're trying to learn from some of our, I don't want to say mistakes, but just as these have weathered and aged out, they're costing a lot of money to maintain, and if we can get more life on them, it might be a benefit. But I'm guessing that's asphalt. And we're also looking at our asphalt composition because the density required for a pickleball court asphalt is higher than what you'd have in a parking lot or a road. So we're finding that out as well too, which it has to be a denser material with multiple lifts of asphalt to kind of get that compression so it doesn't move as much. So I'm learning a lot, and all of us are learning a lot as part of this too.
Can you make me a better basketball player by the surface? So,
No, we can't help you with that. I'm sorry.
All right. Seeing nothing else, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 14725, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the next item, I'll need a motion on Resolution R 14925, approving the reorganization of the Police Department.
move to approve.
Motion approved by Alder Lettuce. And I'll turn it over to Chief Morales.
Hello, everyone. We are proposing a reorganization plan that will repurpose funds and staff to better align with the needs and priorities of the department. To do this, what we would be obtaining is 2 command staff positions. Those sworn positions would be a shift lieutenant and a detective sergeant position. We'll also be creating a full-time social worker, currently have a part-time social worker. We'd be creating a support service supervisor that will oversee our civilian support specialists. We'd be getting 2 of those. One would be doing more of property evidence room management. One would be doing more of forward-facing customer service responsibilities. To fund all of this, we would be using 3 vacant police officer positions, and we would be removing dispatch services as that's a bit of a duplication of services between the city and county. County would assume full service of the of our 911 service calls, and we would be able. That would result in removing 4 permanent employee positions, dispatch positions that would be laid off.
Thank you, Chief. I know we've discussed this quite in depth at the
Yes.
Committee of the Whole, and I appreciate that you brought this to us early for consideration. Questions from the committee? Bill?
So you have verified that the county is okay with picking up a dispatch and there won't be additional costs to the city of Fitchburg?
Correct. That was a long and depth conversation and meetings that involved our city administrator, finance, and our team. So, yeah, we are confident that it would.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, I guess I know you said you've already had the position descriptions drafted. How do you, assuming this passes tonight, which I'm pretty sure it will, what are the next steps look like?
Once this passes, we're ready to move forward. We would be putting those positions. We're working with Sarah on posting the positions. The 4 permanent dispatcher employees that will be laid off will have the opportunity to apply for those positions, and we would, in hopes to get those processes going for the selection process of those who do make it, that they can move into those positions immediately. Our current social worker, who is part-time, working with the senior center, will be able to go full-time, meaning she can go in effect as of next pay period. And the same with our support service supervisor, who is currently working her position. She will be elevated to oversee some of the other positions that will be created.
That is very exciting.
We are very excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? We can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 14925, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks so much, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to Resolution R 15325, I'll need a motion. R 15325, replacement purchase of police poll cameras.
I move approval.
Motion approved by Alder Jetzer. Chief?
Yes, we currently have 2 poll cameras that are outdated and are now not working properly. They tend to fail on us quite regularly. They're up for replacement. The current quote is just a little over $29,000 to replace both of them, and we're looking to use those. We could use them for a number of different events, even some of the things that are currently impacting City Hall.
All right, questions? Seeing none, sorry, Bill. Go, Bill.
So do you make pretty good use of these things? You have them up in different areas of the city and move them around, and they work out pretty well, I imagine?
Yes, and as I stated, to the needs of the service, wherever service calls, and if there's an incident or we have problems here at City Hall, we can post those as well. We had some incidents where there's individual that tends to sleep in the parking lot, and it's causing some trouble with the library. We could use it to monitor certain incidents like that, maybe a neighbor that's impacting employees here. And those are the current items, but if we need it out in a particular park or a city or areas of the city, like a street where there's some issues, we will post those up frequently.
Seeing nothing else, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 15325, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 7, announcements. Our next finance meeting will be September 23rd, 2025. Anything else, Misty? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Alder Ledesay. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:10 p.m.